Today, we're unpacking a genuinely fascinating and honestly pretty wild theory presented by our source material. We're diving into the idea that FIFA systematically and purposefully sidelined Cristiano Ronaldo. It's a super compelling look at what happens when sports, institutional politics, and massive personal branding collide. So let's just dive right into the central paradox the source brings up. Think about this for a second. How on earth does the most successful player of an entire generation end up allegedly unwanted by his own sport's governing body? I mean, a player with that kind of supernatural speed, that terrifying hunger to win, and unparalleled marketability. It completely defies conventional logic, right? You'd assume an organization would do everything to champion its absolute biggest asset. But the source argues there was a much deeper, far more complicated dynamic at play. Section 1. A star without FIFA's favor. Section 2. Decades of alleged bias. Okay, so looking at the early timeline the video lays out, a definite pattern of snubs starts to emerge. Now, losing out on awards in 2003 and 2004, that might just be a young player paying his dues. But the source points out that the underlying friction became glaringly obvious in 2005 and then incredibly publicly awkward in 2007. Let's actually zoom in on that 2005 moment for a second. Just check out the stark contrast in their 2005 seasons. You've got Ronaldo exploding with Manchester United, scoring 9 goals, dishing out 9 assists, and putting on these dazzling performances in World Cup qualifiers. On the flip side, Messi had only played 9 first-team matches, scored 0 goals, and primarily shone in the U20 World Cup, which is a tournament Ronaldo had already totally outgrown. The theory argues this proves awards weren't going to the most deserving based on senior-level merit. Instead, they were going to the player who fit FIFA's personal taste. And Ronaldo, allegedly, just wasn't their flavor. This institutional distaste seemingly blew up into a highly embarrassing moment in 2007. Despite putting up these unbelievable stats, like we're talking completing a staggering 20 dribbles in a single match, Ronaldo was handed the wrong trophy at the FIFA Player of the Year ceremony. He was literally forced to swap it with Messi on live television in front of the entire world. The explainer frames this not as just some simple administrative goof, but as a symbolic demonstration of exactly how unwanted he felt among the football elite. Section 3, 2013, the breaking point. So 2013 rolls around, and it was an absolutely undeniable season for Ronaldo. He scores 69 goals, puts on a legendary hat-trick performance against Sweden, and basically single-handedly secures World Cup qualification for Portugal. Yet even with this overwhelming off-the-charts resume, FIFA hesitated. According to the source, they actually had to change their voting dates because of intense public pressure. The takeaway here is that even in total victory, Ronaldo was being treated as an institutional problem rather than a celebrated hero. Which brings us to what the source considers the ultimate smoking gun, a defining quote from then FIFA president Sepp Blatter. By openly mocking Ronaldo and contrasting him with Messi, who he called the good boy, Blatter basically revealed the whole institutional mindset. The video argues this was the exact moment Ronaldo realized he would never be truly embraced. He was always going to just be a heavily scrutinized guest in FIFA's house. Now, Ronaldo's reaction to all this was fascinating. He didn't just shrink away from the mockery. Nope. Instead, the source notes he responded by becoming entirely independent and totally unapologetic. He stopped playing nice with the establishment, he flat out ceased attending their non-essential events, and when he did have to interact with FIFA, he treated it strictly as cold, hard business. The smile was gone, and the rebel was officially born. Section 4. The rebel versus the brand. To explain FIFA's strategy after this, the source material introduces this really fascinating concept called punitive silence. The governing body knew that openly attacking a player with Ronaldo's massive, fiercely loyal fan base would be an absolute PR nightmare. So the theory goes, they chose a different weapon. They simply stopped acknowledging him altogether. No tweets, no tributes, no statements. They just tried to quietly erase him from the narrative. And it all boils down to this clash of brands. FIFA, just like any massive corporation, wanted a safe, submissive ambassador to sell their values. Someone quiet, simple, and obedient with zero political friction. That was the good boy model. Ronaldo, though, he was a loud, independent rebel. He didn't need FIFA to market him because he had already built this massive, self-sustaining empire of hotels, gyms, and global brands. To a bureaucracy, that kind of financial independence and uncontrollable ambition is a massive, massive threat. The source backs this up with some pretty heavy concrete examples of this punitive silence in action. In 2018, Luka Modric won the Ballon d'Or, even though Ronaldo scored 44 goals and absolutely dominated the Champions League. Then in 2019, Ronaldo was abruptly yanked from the FIFA video game cover, replaced by Dybala and Neymar, with literally zero official explanation. We saw Mo Salah win the Puskas Award over Ronaldo's legendary bicycle kick against Juventus, and perhaps the craziest part? Total institutional silence when Ronaldo broke the all-time international goal-scoring record. The explainer frames all of these as deliberate, calculated administrative choices meant to systematically erase his legacy.
Section 5. Numbers that speak for themselves.
But here's the thing. The narrative strongly argues that this whole strategy of punitive silence ultimately backfired. Why? Because when institutions go quiet, Ronaldo simply speaks in numbers. And you can't debate or erase numbers in a boardroom. Numbers like 938. That is the number of goals that made him the top goal scorer in the entire history of football. Or how about 140? He asserted complete, undeniable dominance over the UEFA Champions League, the sport's absolute premier club competition, by scoring an unbelievable 140 goals. Then there's 50. He scored more than 50 goals in 6 consecutive La Liga seasons from 2010 to 2016. Put that into perspective for a second. It is a staggering feat of sustained, relentless output that absolutely no other player has ever managed to achieve. And through it all, he still secured 5 Ballon d'Ors, completely conquering the football world by winning every conceivable collective and individual title with 2 entirely different clubs. So when you stack it all up, comparing the institution's tools with the individual's reality perfectly summarizes this whole conflict. On one side, you have award snubs, PR maneuvers like game cover removals, and the weapon of punitive silence. But on the exact opposite side, 66 career hat tricks, 138 national team goals, and undeniable historical dominance. The creator's ultimate point is that while bureaucracies can control trophies and public relations, they are utterly powerless to erase a man who literally carried clubs on his back and changed the global image of the athlete entirely through his own sheer will and performance. So, based on everything we've unpacked in this explainer today, from the early award snubs to the clash of brands and the whole strategy of punitive silence, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought regarding this dynamic between Cristiano Ronaldo and FIFA. When the dust finally settles on a sporting era, who really gets the final word? Is history ultimately written by the institutions that govern from the boardrooms, or by the individuals who actually bleed and perform on the pitch? It's a question that really challenges how we view legacy itself. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, keep questioning the narratives behind the game.